Welcome, friends. James Corbett here, CorbettReport.com, 18th of November 2016, and today we're following up on yesterday's Thought for the Day, where we took a look at the infamous 60 Minutes piece on Soros that emerged online earlier this week, and I invite you, of course, to go back and watch that video if you haven't yet done so, but the question did emerge yesterday. I did muse on the fact that I had absolutely no idea where this video had actually come from. Why did it suddenly emerge this week? Well, I did get a response from a listener who sourced it back to the Donald subreddit, where there was this post 5 days ago. Guys, I spent the last 14 hours locating the video Soros has scrubbed off the face of the earth. I finally found it. I need your help. University peds with database access. Get in here. Get in here. That's in reference to centipedes, which is the term for Trump supporters at the Donald. Nearly 300,000 of them in the subreddit. And if for people who are familiar with Reddit, I suggest you go and look through this thread, and you can go right to the back and read how people were processing this and the different people at different universities who were checking and finding that they had access to this depository of online information called Alexander Street, which has streaming information, streaming music and video information that is available to certain users at certain institutions, universities, and things like that. So I don't have access to it, but they even show it here on the front page, 60 Minutes, 1997 to 2014. So presumably all of the different pieces that they ran in that time period will be available through this this service, and that's how they ultimately ended up getting it. And they originally posted it to vid.me and a mirror to mixtape.moe, and it ended up on YouTube and now has over 1 million views on YouTube. So there you go. A pretty amazing thing to go through all of this and to see how it came together. And it should not be surprising at all to Corbett Report supporters who know that, of course, this has been a fundamental part of my work. I talked about it many times, including at my TEDx Groningen speech. This is the idea of the open source investigation, the collaborative open source investigation for people all around the world to bring their little pieces of knowledge and information to the table and to combine their efforts and resources in order to reach a certain goal on a certain task. And obviously, this is not something I just talk about. This is something that we've done a number of times at the Corbett Report, including back a couple of years ago, for example, we had Who is ISIS? An open source investigation, which is this fairly lengthy article that was compiled from information that was largely suggested by people in the comments. So there were people going back and forth with information, literally dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of comments with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of links. And this is the type of investigation I've had on a number of different things in the past, sometimes quite successfully, like, for example, the Paris terror attack open source investigation, 270 comments, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of links, all collated and annotated here, and lots of discussion about them and their meaning. Very, very interesting discussion and lots of participation. Other threads, very little participation, like my P2P solutions open source investigation, only 24 comments, most of which were me. So people vastly more interested in these types of gun attacks that come and go, and you make of them what you will and forget about them next year, and very few people interested in things that materially improve their conditions of life. That's interesting to me. In a way, what I'm doing with these open source investigations is taking a look at things like that and seeing what works and what doesn't work and what can we accomplish and what can't we accomplish. Now, obviously, the Donald subreddit has nearly 300,000 contributors at the moment, so they are able to do things like this with incredible speed and with very assured of the results. But it makes me wonder what is possible with the Corbett Report community, the much more modest Corbett Report community. And there's a number of different ways that we can think about this, but I think one of the reasons why this example of an open source collaborative investigation is A, extremely successful, and B, a good idea to mimic, is that it set a very specific, very attainable goal. Here is this thing. It exists. It is out there. We know it is out there. Can we find it? And in this case, they had a starting point that was that pretty much made it half the way there anyway. Just needed people with access who could then get access to a computer with access to it, who could in some way record it. And, eventually they brought that together. That was a very, very attainable task, a very attainable goal. Within a few hours, they were able to do it. And I think that might be part of how to create a successful open source investigation, even with a smaller and more modest community of researchers, although certainly not a less capable community of researchers. So this is what I'm proposing. It's late at night here in Japan, and my brain is frazzled at the end of the week here. So I'm racking my brain trying to think of things like this 60 Minutes piece that, again, I knew was out there. I knew it existed. I knew it would be possible to, obviously there are archives where you can actually go and get the archived tape, the videos of it. So that exists. It's out there. It's not unattainable. It's just that they found a way to do it online through this Alexander Street, which was, very helpful. But that's the type of thing that's out there that we know about, that it just would require a bit of organization and effort to actually uncover. And I think there's got to be other ripe fruit like that. And I'm racking my brain trying to think of things like this, but I'm not having much success at the moment. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Let's have an open source investigation about what to have our next open source investigation about. So Corp Report members, please do log on and leave your comments in the comment section for this video that I'm making right now, leaving your suggestions. What should we combine our resources and put our mental energies into doing next in terms of the open source investigation? Please try to suggest something and try to make it specific and attainable, like this 60 Minutes piece that we know exists. We know it's out there. We know what it says. We just don't actually have the copy of it. That's a great way to have success with something like this. So that's a good example. Poor examples of suggestions would be overly broad topics, who really runs the world, or very specific topics that no one really has much interest or enthusiasm for, like what was the real cause of the Franco-Prussian War or something like that. Again, that's not going to generate much interest, and it's still doesn't really have an attainable goal per se. So something very specific would be good. Pizzagate might come to mind for people. This is obviously a hot topic in the quote-unquote conspiracy circles right now. But I would say that Pizzagate started in the Donald subreddit again, but actually now has its own subreddit with over 15,000 contributors right now. So if you have an interest in the Pizzagate open source investigation, I'm going to direct you over there. I'm not going to try to steal their thunder, because this is the place, obviously, to be collating and discussing the Pizzagate information. So that would probably not be a good suggestion. So what do you think? Is there something like this 60 Minutes piece, something attainable that we know is out there that we can put our resources to? I am very interested to hear what you guys have to say. And on that note, I think I'll be leaving you for today. Thank you once again for your time. This is James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.